Schneider and Burkett noticed something unsettling while conducting potentially dangerous research photographing baby reptiles. Granted, it's a task many people would fear, but for these guys, it's just an ordinary part of their jobs. Yet even the zoologists were unnerved when they stared at their venomous subjects and noticed one key difference: a potential genetic mutation, one that makes the creature twice as deadly. Schneider and Burkett are all too familiar with dangerous reptiles. Part of the work that Herpetological Associates does involves assessing the presence of venomous snakes on building sites. Naturally, then, the group's employees undergo extensive training that allows them to safely capture potentially deadly serpents. And the northern copperhead and the timber rattlesnake are of particular interest to the organization. That's what the pair were working with on this strange day. The timber rattlesnake can be found throughout the east of North America. Virtually no other kind of rattlesnake lives in the wild near humans in the U.S.'s northeastern regions. That said, the creature is endangered in New Jersey, Massachusetts, and Vermont. It's also pretty scary. Yes, the timber rattlesnake has somewhat of a frightful reputation. Not only can examples of the species grow up to 60 inches in length, but they can also possess large fangs, and most terrifyingly of all, this snake can be very harmful to humans. Its venom can bring about both internal bleeding and muscle cell death. So when faced with a creature possibly twice as dangerous, the two experts were undoubtedly wary. After all, snake venom is not something to laugh about. Take the venom of northern copperheads, for instance. Confined to the east of North America, these snakes are usually found where trees are plentiful. And while the serpents are smaller than timber rattlesnakes, their venom is just as dangerous. And a bite from a northern copperhead could cause tissue damage, excruciating pain, and nausea. Pretty nasty, right? But given their familiarity with highly venomous snake species, Herpetological Associates members likely aren't fazed by much that they see in the field. Yet in August 2019, two people from the organization were stopped in their tracks when they stumbled across the strange mutant reptile in New Jersey. It was at that time that Schneider, who is a Herpetological Associates Northern New Jersey regional manager, and his fellow scientist Burkett were auditing Pine Barrens, New Jersey. Often referred to as the Pines, this swath of coastal plain contains dense woodland and covers numerous counties in the far south of the state. Burkett explained the circumstances surrounding his and Schneider's unsettling discovery in an August 2019 interview with Long Beach Island magazine, The Sandpaper. He revealed, for instance, that the land the pair were looking at was often used by female snakes to birth their young, naturally making it a location of interest for herpetologists. "We were out surveying a certain area where we know that rattlesnakes give birth," Burkett told The Sandpaper. "It's an area where female snakes hang out, get sun, and let the embryos incubate. They have live young late in August, and the young usually stay by the mother." More specifically, Burkett's job involves observing the endangered animals and plants in an area. That way, Herpetological Associates clients can proceed with their projects with minimal impact on the environment. But even though the scientist had spent years observing rattlesnakes, neither he nor Schneider had ever seen a serpent quite like this one before. Yet it appears that Burkett didn't notice the snake's deformity at first. Instead, he dutifully carried out his work, snapping pictures of the young reptile on his camera. When the creature moved to take shelter, however, Burkett spotted that it was, in fact, very different from other snakes of its kind. And naturally, he went on to bring the unusual feature to the attention of his co-worker. Yet while the disfigured creature in question appeared to be healthy, Schneider and Burkett still feared for the reptile's future. Owing to its anomaly, you see, the snake would find it more difficult to make its way in the wild. And so the Herpetological Associates employees opted to take the potentially dangerous animal into captivity. But before Schneider and Burkett could rescue the mutant reptile, they first needed permission to move it. Fortunately, as Burkett told The Sandpaper, he possesses a special permit. The herpetologist added, "Under the endangered species laws, it's illegal to handle or harass any endangered reptiles or amphibians without that permit." Herpetological Associates CEO Bob Zappalorti later defended Schneider and Burkett's decision to remove the deformed snake. It probably wouldn't be able to survive in the wild, he told NJ.com in September 2019. As it was crawling, there's a chance it could have gotten snagged on something, leaving it open to be eaten by predators. Herpetological Associates believed that it had done the right thing by taking the snake in. The scientific organization will also continue to study the curiosity as it grows, although there's no way of telling how long it will survive. And Schneider and Burkett haven't been the only ones to come across such a bizarre, mutated animal. In May 2019, a three-eyed snake living in the Australian wilderness achieved viral fame after it had previously been found on a highway. Sadly, though, the creature passed away a matter of weeks later, possibly as a result of its disfigurement. The reptile that Schneider and Burkett had discovered, though, was a baby timber rattlesnake, so it was capable of administering a nasty and venomous bite. And despite its relatively young age, the specimen was potentially twice as dangerous as others of its species, too. Even as herpetologists, Schneider and Burkett may have been surprised at the snake. Herpetology itself is the analysis of cold-blooded reptiles, amphibians, and caecilians. And while such creatures may seem very much removed from us humans, scientists believe that we have much to learn from them. For example, studying these animals can provide us with unique insights into the state of our planet. How? Well, these creatures can sense subtle transformations in their environments, and as a result they can give clear warnings that an ecological shift is underway. Their venom, though terrifying, could be useful too. Certain venoms that are emitted by amphibians and reptiles can have medicinal applications. Yes, some kinds of snake venom are used, for example, to prevent blood clots in patients who have suffered heart attacks or strokes. Also, if you've not done so already, please subscribe to our channel and click the notification bell to get inspired by these animal stories every day. Now, back to the story. Given that there's a lot to gain from investigating these animals, then, it's perhaps not surprising that herpetology has many champions. And naturally, Herpetological Associates is among those who promote the discipline. The organization was founded in 1977 and specializes in threatened and endangered animal and plant species and their respective habitats. Members of the Herpetological Associates team also work to ensure the well-being of wildlife in forests, parks, and suburbs. Herpetological Associates also teams up with different groups, helping its clients to complete their projects without unduly affecting the environment. To do so, specialists liaise with state and federal authorities to acquire conservation permits. They also assess natural habitats and take stock of wildlife and plant populations. Herpetological Associates offices are spread out across the U.S., in Florida, Pennsylvania, and New Jersey. In particular, the team in the Garden State focuses their efforts on the Regional Coastal Area Facility Review Act and assists clients with their submissions to various environmental agencies, including the New Jersey Pinelands Commission. So why was the snake such a menace? Well, it had not one, but two heads. And it's little wonder that the oddity gave Burkett quite a shock when he first spotted it. "I just called to Dave Schneider and said, 'Holy cow, this thing has two heads,'" he told the Sandpaper. What's more, Burkett and Schneider initially questioned what they thought they'd witnessed, and understandably so. "We couldn't see the snake at that point," Burkett explained, "so I checked the shots on my camera, and there it was, two heads." Then, upon further investigation, Burkett and Schneider discovered that both of the snake's heads worked independently. The around 10-inch long specimen also sported two pairs of working eyes, as well as a couple of forked tongues. As of yet, though, scientists haven't determined the gender of the serpent. "Both tongues are flicking independently of each other, so the snake's got two brains," Schneider told KYW-TV in September 2019. "When it moves around, you'll see that one head goes one way and the other, and the heads are kind of fighting each other and stiffen up, and then one will decide to go with the better half. So it's pretty interesting." That being said, the snake did have one head that seemed to be more assertive than the other. In September 2019, Schneider explained to ABC News, "It appears the head on the right side is the more dominant one, but every once in a while the other head will want to go in a different direction." And the snake received a very appropriate name, one that not only honored its rare feature, but also the two men who'd found it and brought it into the care of herpetological associates. The animal became known as Double Dave, in a tribute of sorts to Burkett and Schneider. It turns out, too, that Double Dave isn't the first snake to have been born with a pair of heads. The condition that the animal possesses is referred to as polycephaly, and it seems to occur when an embryo divides into two but doesn't entirely separate. In his interview with NJ.com, Zeppelorti also explained how polycephaly may have affected Double Dave. He said the snake probably was meant to be a twin, and it mutated, and the female gave birth to this abnormal baby. Addressing the rarity of the snake's deformation, Zeppelorti added, "It's the only one ever found in New Jersey." In fact, across the world, two-headed creatures regularly crop up in various myths and legends, where they are usually believed to be a sign of impending disaster. In real life, by contrast, animals with two heads are relatively uncommon, occurring in just 1 in every 100,000 births outside of captivity. And yet, two-headed snakes seem to be found fairly frequently. Indeed, just weeks before Double Dave hit the headlines, another two-headed serpent had been photographed in Bali. In 2018, a fellow bicephalic snake named Tom and Jerry also traveled to Switzerland to feature in the Reptile Expo. However, contrary to the popular phrase, two heads aren't usually better than one when it comes to snakes. You see, even simple decisions, such as which way to slither, for example, can become a clash of wills. And it's not unheard of either for bicephalic animals to fight themselves for food. Two-headed snakes can become easy prey for predators, and this made the chances of Double Dave surviving into adulthood in the wild extremely slim. That's why herpetological associates had decided to round up the otherworldly creature. "We'll take care of it," Schneider was quoted as saying in a September 2019 report by The Guardian. Yet even in captivity, two-headed snakes can be difficult to care for, something that Cooper Saladay knows all too well. Pictures that the viper breeder had taken of the bicephalic copperhead went viral in 2018, and owing to the furor surrounding the mutant creature, Saladay had therefore felt obliged to care for it as best he could. Since the snake had such an incomprehensible amount of media attention, there was a lot of pressure on me to keep that thing alive, Saladay told Wired in June 2019. In a bid to prolong the creature's life, Saladay had to force it to eat. But even with his best efforts, there was no saving the serpent. Sadly, it passed away months later. And in the end, Saladay felt the death was the kinder outcome for the animal. "If it had been a snake that was born in my collection, I wouldn't have told anybody about it," he informed Wired. "Honestly, I would probably have euthanized it myself, because it was so hard for the snake, just being alive." Meanwhile, several weeks into its stay with the folk at Herpetological Associates, Double Dave was still going strong. The creature seemed to be healthy, in fact, and its two heads were getting along just fine. Nevertheless, Schneider and his co-workers were eager to scan the snake to determine whether its digestive system was in good working order. And if this part of Double Dave's insides is found to be in good health, it will reassure the snake's carers that it can receive nourishment and can therefore thrive. In fact, the future could still be bright for the serpent, as two-headed snakes can apparently survive for more than 15 years when reared in captivity. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up and consider sharing it with your friends and family. Thanks again, and we'll see you in the next one.